The Peru national football team has represented Peru in international football since 1927. Organized by the Peruvian Football Federation, it is one of the 10 members of FIFA's South American Football Confederation. The Peruvian team's performance has been inconsistent. It enjoyed its most successful periods in the 1930s and the 1970s. Currently managed by Pablo Bengoechea, it plays most of its home matches at the Estadio Nacional in Lima, the country's capital. The Peru national team has won the Copa América twice and qualified for FIFA World Cup finals 4 times. It also participated in the 1936 Olympic football competition. It has long-standing rivalries with Chile and Ecuador. The team is well known for its white shirts adorned with a red sash running from the left shoulder to the right. This basic design has been used continuously since 1936. The white and red colors, the country's national colors, give rise to the side's common Spanish nickname, La Blanquirroja. Peru took part in the inaugural FIFA World Cup in 1930 and enjoyed victories in the 1938 Bolivarian Games and the 1939 Copa América, with goalkeeper Juan Valdivieso and forwards Teodoro Fernandez and Alejandro Villanueva playing important roles. Peruvian football's successful period in the 1970s brought it worldwide recognition. The team then included the formidable forward partnership of Hugo Sotil and Philo Cubillas, often regarded as Peru's greatest player, and defender to Chumpetas. This team qualified for 3 World Cups and won the Copa América in 1975. The Peruvian team last reached the World Cup finals in 1982. It has since failed to qualify, and has not won any major tournament. FIFA temporarily suspended the country from international competition in late 2008 during the Peruvian government's investigations into alleged corruption within the FPF. Peru came third at the 2011 Copa América, but failed to qualify for the 2014 World Cup in Brazil. History. Association football was introduced to Peru in the 19th century by British immigrants and Peruvians returning from England. Members of the British community in the capital Lima founded the Lima Cricket Club, dedicated to cricket, rugby and football, in 1859. These new sports became popular among upper-class Peruvians over the following decades. After early developments were halted by the War of the Pacific against Chile from 1879 to 1883, coastal society in Peru embraced modern innovations such as football. The sport became a popular daily activity in Lima barrios, encouraged by bosses who hoped that it would breed solidarity and improved productivity among their workers. In the adjacent port of Callao and other commercial areas, British civilian workers and sailors played the sport among themselves and with locals. Sports rivalries between locals and foreigners arose in Callao, and between elites and workers in Lima. Over time, as foreigners departed, this evolved into a rivalry between Callao and Lima. These factors, coupled with the sport's rapid development among the urban poor of Lima's La Victoria district, led to Peru developing the strongest footballing culture in the Andean region. The Peruvian Football League was formed in 1912 and held each year until it broke up in 1921 amid disputes between the member clubs. The Peruvian Football Federation was created the following year and, in 1926, it reorganized the annual league competition. The FPF joined the South American Football Confederation in 1925, and formed a national team in 1927. The delay was due to financial issues. The team debuted in the 1927 South American Championship, which the FPF hosted at the Estadio Nacional in Lima. Peru's first match was a 0-4 loss against Uruguay. Their second was a 3-2 victory over Bolivia. Peru next took part in the inaugural FIFA World Cup in Uruguay in 1930. The 1930s have been called Peruvian football's first golden era. Starting with Ciclista Lima in 1926, Peruvian clubs toured Latin America. During one of these tours Alianza Lima's undefeated journey through Chile in 1935 a group of players emerged that became called the Rodillo Negro, led by forwards Alejandro Villanueva and Teodoro Fernandez and goalkeeper Juan Valdivieso. Sports historian Richard Witzig described these three as a soccer triumvirate unsurpassed in the world at the time, citing their combined innovation and effectiveness at both ends of the field. Peru and the Rodillo Negro awed crowds at the 1936 Summer Olympics, won the inaugural Bolivarian Games in 1938, and finished the decade as South American champions. Subsequent years proved less successful for the team. According to historian David Goldblatt, despite all the apparent preconditions for footballing growth and success, Peruvian football disappeared. He attributes this sudden decline to Peruvian authorities' repression of social, sporting and political organizations among the urban and rural poor during the 1940s and 1950s. Peru generally performed creditably at the South American Championships during this period, nevertheless, and only narrowly missed qualification for the Sweden 1958 World Cup finals, losing over two legs to eventual champions Brazil. A series of successes during the late 1960s, culminating with qualification for the 1970 World Cup finals in Mexico, ushered in a second golden period for Peruvian football. The formidable forward partnership between T-Cubed Philo Cubillas and Hugo Sotil has been cited as a key factor in Peru's success during the 1970s. Peru reached the quarter-finals in 1970, losing to the tournament winners Brazil, and earned the first FIFA Fair Play trophy. The team was, Richard Henshaw writes, the surprise of the 1970 competition, showing flair and a high level of skill. 5 years later, Peru were crowned South American champions for the second time when they won the 1975 Copa América. The team then qualified for 2 consecutive World Cup tournaments. It reached the second round in Argentina 1978, and was knocked out in the first group stage at the 1982 tournament in Spain. Peru's early elimination in 1982 ended a period when the side's flowing football was admired across the globe. Following the team's failure to qualify for the 1986 World Cup in Mexico, renewed expectations for Peru were centered on a young generation of Alianza Lima players known colloquially as Los Potrillos. The team entered a hiatus after the Alianza Lima air disaster of December 8, 1987, when a plane carrying most of Alianza's players and staff crashed into the Pacific Ocean. Only the pilot survived the crash. Among the dead were the Peru manager, Marcos Caldera Cubden, and several Peru international players, including goalkeeper Jose Copyright González Ganiza and Luis Escobar, who was widely tipped as a future star forward. The team came last in both the 1990 and 1994 World Cup qualifiers, but had recovered slightly by the end of the century. After earning 4th place at the 1997 Copa América, Peru missed qualification for the France 1998 World Cup only on goal difference. Peru later won the 1999 Kirin Cup in Japan and placed 3rd at the 2000 CONCACAF Gold Cup, which it contested as an invited guest team. Since the turn of the century, the Peruvian team has dealt with internal problems and continuing difficulties in World Cup qualification. Manuel Berger, who became president of the FPF in 2002, was blamed by many in Peru for what they saw as the national team's underperformance since his election as FPF president, including its failure to qualify for the South Korea-Japan 2002 and Germany 2006 World Cup finals. Berger became very unpopular with the public. When the Peruvian government charged Berger with corruption in late 2008 and declared his re-election illegal, FIFA suspended the Peru national team and Football League, citing political interference. These sanctions were lifted in December 2008 after the Peruvian Institute of Sport agreed to negotiate with the FPF, with IPD President Arturo Woodman avoiding direct communications with Berger. The following year, Peru missed qualification for the 2010 World Cup in South Africa and ended the year as CONMEBOL's lowest-ranked team. Peru have since partially improved. The team came 3rd at the 2011 Copa América, and reached 19th in the July 2013 FIFA World Rankings, its highest-ever position since the start of the rankings in December 1992, but it failed to qualify for the Brazil 2014 World Cup finals. Colors. The Peru national football team plays in red and white, the country's national colors. Its first choice kit has been, since 1936, white shorts, white socks, and white shirts with a distinctive red sash crossing their front diagonally from the proper left shoulder to the right hip and returning on the back from the right hip to the proper left shoulder. This basic scheme has been only slightly altered over the years. It has won praise as one of world football's most attractive kit designs. Christopher Turpin, the executive producer of NPR's All Things Considered news show, lauded the 1970 iteration in 2010 as the beautiful game's most beautiful shirt, also commenting that it was retro even in 1970. The version worn in 1978 came first in a 2010 ESPN list of the best World Cup jerseys of all time, described therein as a simple yet strikingly effective piece of design. Peru's first kit, made for the 1927 South American Championship, comprised a white and red striped shirt, white shorts and black socks. Peru were compelled to use an alternative design in the 1930 World Cup because Paraguay had already registered a kit with white and red striped shirts. The Peruvians instead wore white shirts with a red collar, white shorts and black socks. For the 1935 South American Championship, a horizontal red stripe was added to the shirt. The following year, at the Berlin Olympics, the team adopted the red sash design it has retained ever since. According to historian Pulga Vidal-Otálora, the idea for the diagonal red stripe came from school football matches in which colored sashes worn over the shoulder would allow two teams wearing white shirts to play against each other. The Peru national team has had 8 official kit manufacturers. The first of these, Adidas, began supplying the team's kit in 1978. Peru have since had contracts with Penalty, Adidas, Carvo Sportwear, Power, Diadora, local manufacturer Puma, Umbro, and Peruvian company Wall & Sport. Umbro have again produced the team's kit since 2010. Stadium. The traditional home of Peruvian football is the country's national stadium, the Estadio Nacional in Lima, which houses 45,000 spectators. The present ground is the Estadio Nacional's third incarnation, the result of renovations conducted under the Alan Garca administration. It was officially inaugurated on July 24, 2011, 88 years to the day after the original ground opened on the same site in 1923. The original Estadio Nacional was a wooden structure with a capacity of 6,000, donated by members of Lima's British community to celebrate the centenary of Peru's independence from Spain. Following a campaign for the ground's renovation, headed by Miguel Dasso, president of the Sociedad de Beneficencia de Lima, it was rebuilt with a larger capacity under General Manuel A. Odre and opened for the second time on October 27, 1952. The stadium was last redeveloped in 2011. Improvements included the construction of a plaque-covered exterior, a multicolored illumination system added inside the ground, as well as 2 giant LED screens and 375 private suites. A distinctive feature of the ground is the Miguel Dasso Tower on its northern side, which contains luxury boxes. It was most recently renovated in 2004. The Estadio Nacional has a natural Bermuda grass pitch. It was, from 2005 to 2011, the only national stadium in CONMEBOL to have artificial turf, which was installed for the 2005 FIFA U17 World Championship. The stadium was during this period one of Peru's 4 FIFA Star 2 grounds, the highest certification granted to artificial pitches, but the synthetic turf was blamed for players' injuries, such as burns and bruises. Natural grass was reinstalled as part of the redevelopments completed in 2011. Peru sometimes play home matches at other venues. Outside the desert-like coast region of Lima, the thin atmosphere at the high-altitude Estadio Garcilaso de la Vega in Cusco and the balmy Amazonic climate of the Estadio Max Augusta N in Iquitos have been described as providing strategic advantages for Peru against certain visiting teams. Other common alternate venues for the national team include 2 other grounds in the Peruvian capital: Euro Alianza's Estadio Alejandro Villanueva and Universitario's Estadio Monumental. The last time the Peruvian team played at an alternate venue was in 2012, when it faced Chile at the Estadio Jorge Posada in Tacna. Supporters. Football has been the most popular sport in Peru since the early 20th century. The sport was originally largely exclusive to Lima's Anglophile elite and expatriates, and secluded from the rest of the city, but it became an integral part of wider popular culture during the 1900s and 1910s. Augusto Blanquirroja's government institutionalized the sport into a national pastime over the following decades by promoting and organizing its development. Peruvian football fans are known for their distinctive chant Arabapira, as well as for their use of traditional Peruvian música criolla to express support, both at national team games and at club matches. Música criolla attained national and international recognition with the advent of mass media during the 1930s, becoming a widely recognized symbol of Peru and its culture. The national team's most popular anthem is Peru Campea Cubden, a polka criolla glorifying Peru's qualification for the Mexico 1970 World Cup. The Estadio Nacional disaster of May 24, 1964, involving Peruvian supporters, is often cited as one of the worst tragedies in football history. During a qualifying match for the 1964 Olympics between Peru's under-20 team and its counterpart from Argentina, the Uruguayan referee Angel Paez disallowed a would-be Peruvian equalizer, alleging rough play. Spectators threw missiles from the stands while two fans invaded the pitch and attacked the referee. Police threw tear gas into the crowd, which caused a stampede. Trying to escape, fans were crushed against the stadium's locked gates. A total of 315 people were killed in the chaos, with more than 500 others injured. Rivalries. The Peru national football team maintains prominent rivalries with its counterparts from neighboring Chile and Ecuador. The Peruvians have a favorable record against Ecuador and a negative record against Chile. Peru faced both rivals in the 1939 South American Championship in Lima, which was also the first time Peru faced Ecuador in an official tournament. Peru won both games. Peru also defeated its rivals during qualifying for the Argentina 1978 World Cup, directly eliminating them both. The Chile-Peru football rivalry is known in Spanish as the Clásico del Pacífico. CNN World Sport editor Greg Duke ranks it among the top 10 football rivalries in the world. Peru first faced Chile in the 1935 South American Championship, defeating it by 1-0. The two countries traditionally compete with each other over the rank of fourth best national team in South America. They also both claim to have invented the bicycle kick. Peruvians call it the chalaca, while it is the chilena in Chile. The rivalry between the Ecuador and Peru football teams is rooted in the historical border conflict between the countries dating back to the 19th century. In 1995, after the brief Senate-Por War, CONMEBOL contemplated altering that year's Copa América Copyright Rica group stage to prevent a match between the two sides, but ultimately did not. According to Michael Handelsman, Ecuadorian fans consider losses to Colombia or Peru an excuse to lament Ecuador's inability to establish itself as an international soccer power. During the Brazil 2014 World Cup qualifiers, Ecuador's captain Walter Alva declared that these matches have always had something additional, a thorough rivalry. We are going to play for the pride of representing the country, its colors, because these games have always been a kind of derby. Competitive records, FIFA World Cup. The Peruvian team competed at the first World Cup in 1930 by invitation, and has entered each tournament at the qualifying stage since 1958. Having qualified 3 times, it has taken part in the World Cup finals 4 times. Peru's all-time record in World Cup qualifying matches as of 2014 stands at 35 wins, 30 draws and 59 losses. In the finals, the team has won 4 matches, drawn 3 and lost 8, with 19 goals in favor and 31 against. During the 1930 competition, a Peruvian became the first player sent off in a World Cup. His identity is disputed between sources. Luis de Souza Ferreira scored Peru's first World Cup goal on July 14, 1930, in a match against Romania. Philo Cubillas is the team's top scorer in the World Cup finals, with 10 goals in 13 games. Copa América Copyright Rica. Peru's national team has taken part in 31 editions of the Copa América Copyright Rica since 1927, and has won the competition twice. The country has hosted the tournament 6 times. Peru's overall record in the competition is 49 victories, 32 draws, and 55 losses. Demetrio Neira scored Peru's first goal in the competition on November 13, 1927, in a match against Bolivia. 3 Copa América tournaments have featured a Peruvian top scorer Teodoro Fernandez in 1939, Eduardo Malasquez in 1983 and Paulo Guerreiro in 2011. Fernandez, the 1939 top scorer, was also named player of the tournament. Philo Cubillas, voted the best player in the 1975 competition, is the only other Peruvian to win this award. Peru won its first continental title in 1939, when it won the South American Championship with successive victories over Ecuador, Chile, Paraguay and Uruguay. It was the first time the competition had been won by a team other than Uruguay, Brazil or Argentina. Peru became South American champions for the second time in 1975, when it won that year's Copa América, the first to feature all 10 CONMEBOL members. Peru came top of their group in the first round, eliminating Chile and Bolivia, and in the semi-finals drew with Brazil over 2 legs, winning 3-1 in Brazil but losing 2-0 at home. Peru were declared winners by drawing of lots. In the 2-legged final between Colombia and Peru, both teams won their respective home games, forcing a playoff in Caracas which Peru won 1-0. Olympic Games. Peru's senior side has competed in the Olympic football tournament once, at the 1936 Summer Olympics in Berlin, Germany. The multiracial 1936 team has been latterly described by historian David Goldblatt as the jewel of the country's first Olympic delegation. It had a record of 2 victories, scoring 11 goals and conceding 5. Teodoro Fernandez scored Peru's first goal in the tournament in the match against Finland on August 6, and finished as the team's top scorer with 6 goals in 2 games, including Peru's only hat-trick at the Olympics. The 1935 South American Championship in Lima acted as the qualifying stage for the 1936 Olympic tournament. Uruguay won undefeated and Argentina came second, but neither took up their Olympic spot because of economic issues. Peru, who had come third, duly represented South America. The Peruvian team began the competition with a 7-3 win over Finland, after which they faced Austria, managed by Jimmy Hogan and popularly known as the Wonder Team, in the quarter-finals. After the game ended 2-2, Peru scored twice in extra time to win 4-2. Peru were expected to then face Poland in the semi-finals, but events off the pitch led to the withdrawal of Peru's Olympic delegation before the match was played. Players, current squad. The following players were called up for the friendly matches against Iraq on September 5, and Qatar on September 9, 2014. Caps and goals are correct as of August 8, 2014. Recent call-ups. The players listed below were not included in the most recent squad, but have been called up by Peru in the last 12 months. INJ withdrew because of injury, WD withdrew for personal reasons. Notable players. A report published by CONMEBOL in 2008 described Peru as traditionally exhibiting an elegant, technical and fine football style, and praised it as one of the most loyal exponents of South American football talent. Peruvian players noted in the CONMEBOL article as true artists of the ball include forwards Philo Cubillas, Pedro Pablo Lecubden and Hugo Sotil, defender to trumpeters and midfielders Roberto Chaw, Cuito, and Roberto Palacios. Cubillas, an attacking midfielder and forward popularly known as El Nin, is widely regarded as Peru's greatest ever player. Trumpeters is often cited as the team's best defender. Witzig lists him among his best players of the modern era, and praises him as a strong reader of the game with excellent ball skills and distribution, who marshaled a capable defense to support Peru's attack. Cuito, Cubillas, and Jose Velasquez were together described as the best midfield in the world by El Gráfico, an Argentine sports journal, in 1978. Teodoro Fernandez, Alejandro Villanueva, and Juan Valdivieso are often regarded as the key members of the Rodillo Negro team of the 1930s. Fernandez was the team's forward and primary goal scorer. His partner in attack, Villanueva, was a gifted playmaker. Valdivieso was a goalkeeper with a reputation for exceptional athleticism who often saved penalties. A commemorative match between teams representing Europe and South America was organized in Basel, Switzerland for the benefit of homeless children in 1972. Cubillas, Trumpeters, Sotil, and Julio Bailacuben played in the South American team, which won the game 2-0. Cubillas scored the first goal. A similar match was held the next year at Barcelona's Nou Camp with the declared intent of fighting global poverty. Cubillas, Trumpeters and Sotil once again played, with Trumpeters named South America's captain. Each of the Peruvians scored in a 4-4 draw, which South America won 7-6 on penalties. Managers. Peru's first two managers were from Uruguay. The first, Pedro Olivieri, was hired before the 1927 South American Championship because of his prior experience managing Uruguay. The second, Julio Borrelli, spent a few years as a referee in Peru before managing the national team in the 1929 South American Championship. Francisco Bru, a former Barcelona player who had been the first manager of the Spain national team, managed Peru at the 1930 World Cup. Peru's managers at the 1970, 1978 and 1982 World Cup finals were respectively Valder Pereira, Peruvian Marcos Caldera Cubden and Brazilian Elber Pardua Lima. Sports analysts and historians commonly consider the Peru team's most successful managers to be Caldera Cubden, Peru's 1975 Copa América copyright Rica winning manager, and Englishman Jack Greenwell, under whom the team won the 1938 Bolivarian Games and the 1939 South American Championship. Three other Peru managers have led the team to tournament victories: Juan Carlos Oblitas, Freddy Ternero, and Uruguayan Sergio Marcaraya, and each oversaw a Peruvian victory in the Kirin Cup in Japan, in 1999, 2005 and 2011 respectively. Records and statistics. The Peru national team has played 545 matches since 1927, including friendlies. The largest margin of victory achieved by a Peru side is 9-1 against Ecuador, on August 11, 1938 at the Bolivarian Games in Colombia. The team's record deficit, 7-0, occurred against Brazil at the 1997 Copa América copyright Rica in Bolivia. Peru won the inaugural FIFA Fair Play Trophy, awarded at the 1970 World Cup, having been the only team not to receive any yellow or red cards during the competition. The Peruvian player with the most international caps is Roberto Palacios, who represented the country 122 times between 1992 and 2007. Second is copyright to Trumpeters, with 105 appearances. Jorge Soto is third with 101. The most capped goalkeeper is Oscar Iba, equal or more than plus or minus is, who played for Peru 50 times. The team's all-time top goal scorer is T-Cubed Philo Cubillas, who scored 26 goals in 81 appearances. Teodoro Fernandez is second with 24 goals in 32 games. Third is Norberto Solano, who played for Peru 89 times and scored 20 goals. Peru's fastest goal that scored soonest after kick-off was scored by Claudio Pizarro less than a minute into the match against Mexico on August 20, 2003. See also: Peru national football team and discipline scandals, Peru women's national football team, Peru national under-17 football team, Peru national under-20 football team, Peru national beach soccer team, Peru national futsal team, Peruvian Primera División Cubden, Sport in Peru, Notes. References. Bibliography. External links: Peru FA, FIFA Team Profile, ELO Team Records.